What's going on, guys? This is Daniel with Family God and Country. Finally back with another video. I was doing some modifications on my High Point 9mm, the same one we did the disassembling video of, and I figured while I had it taken apart, I would go ahead and show some of the mods that I've been doing. I've already done them, so I can't necessarily demonstrate it, but I can give you a walkthrough of how to do it and the easiest way that I've found to do it, and if they're beneficial. Matter of fact, when we get done shooting this video, excuse me, we will go ahead and head outside and shoot it a few times and see if they made the difference that I think they will. And then also there is just some cosmetic changes just to make it look cooler, in my opinion. So let's go ahead and get into that. I have the High Point taken apart here, and the first thing that I wanted to do when I took it apart was I had been watching some videos and reading about polishing your feed ramp, which is this little slide area right here, and this is where your bullet will actually slide up into to be chambered. You know, these are painted black originally when you get them. Actually, this whole area here, including the barrel, will be black on a new weapon. I also did go ahead and polish the exposed side. Well, actually, I polished all four sides of the block, but I did a real fine polish on the exposed side there. As you can see here on the slide itself, I polished just the center strip of steel there, where the High Point information is, the make and model and things like that. And then obviously I did the same thing on the other side, polished that down with a real fine polish. I didn't go crazy with any crazy sandpaper or anything like that. I started with a real fine 220 grit sandpaper on my angle grinder, and I just went really slow, really smooth across it. I didn't want to ding it or cut into it at all. And I also taped off either side, so I'd make sure as to not scratch up the black areas that I wanted to keep black. So be careful when you're doing that. And then from there I moved on to a Scotch-Brite pad, and I just took my time and probably invested a couple hours in just polishing this down really smooth, a little bit at a time, making sure I didn't scratch it, and I think that looks pretty badass. So those are a couple cosmetic things, as well as I repainted my scales, repainted my safety, things like that. Also, I have laying out here, just to show you guys, I'm not gonna assemble it on camera. I already did a disassembling video. I didn't go into great depth about some of the smaller parts that are in the top here, part of your trigger mechanism and the safety, things like that. Also, I do have the rail that goes in where the magazine goes. I have that removed and everything, and that's this piece right here. That's all. It's all really simple. The only advice I can give on that is when you're taking it apart, take your time. You know, these little tiny parts, things like this little spring that goes down in here, that's really easy shit to lose, and if you lose it, you're gonna have to order another part. You could always try to jimmy rig it, but I don't know if it would work. I mean, we're dealing with little pieces like this. I mean, this is no bigger than a thin piece of, you know, baling wire, and you could lose that really easy. So be careful with that. But the tools that you'll need to completely disassemble the gun and to do the modifications that I've showed here, which you can go further by knocking out a couple more pins. There's another pin here that you can knock out that I believe the whole trigger mechanism will come out then. I think you can remove the block. Things that I don't really deem necessary. But you'll need a hammer to start. You'll also need a 1/8 of an inch hole punch. Some people say 5/32. I think 1/8 of an inch is a little better. Needle nose pliers. I would prefer 2 sets of needle nose pliers. My other set is out with the tractor. I didn't pick up my tools last night, and I've been working on the tractor, so they're laying out there. So I've got a pair of needle nose and just another pair of quick pliers that I found. You will need both a Phillips and standard screwdriver. A small pocket knife will also come in handy for some of the magazine modifications that I've done, which we'll get into here real quick. These magazines are notorious for not feeding, for misfeeding, for double feeding, for everything you could think of. Really, they aren't very well made or well inspected, I guess. It seems like it's more of a quality control deal to me. But you can make a couple easy modifications that will make life a lot easier and make shooting the high point quite a bit more enjoyable. They really are a decent firearm in my opinion, and I think a lot of the bad name and stuff like that they get is based on faulty magazines. I mean, a lot of it has to do with that. And you can see I have two different magazines here. This is the standard 8-round magazine that comes with a high point when you buy one new, and you can see this one is already disassembled. This is a 10-round magazine that you can buy aftermarket. It is a high point magazine. I would recommend only shooting high point magazines out of these pistols. I've had a couple Pro Mag and stuff like that, and I've had quite a bit more issue with them than I have regular high point magazines. But on this 8-round magazine here, the first thing I started with was your lips on the end of magazine here. And what I did, and what's real simple, like I said, I've already done it, so I can't do it, but I can demonstrate, is just take your needle nose pliers, what I used, and just widen those lips out just a fuzz, just on the ends here. You don't need to mess with these ones back here, just these lips right on the end here. Widen those out, twisting your pliers either towards you or away from you, depending on where you start, here or here. And don't go overboard with it, just a little bit at a time, and that'll help some of the feeding issues. Another modification you can make that's really simple is on the spring itself. So basically how this comes out is you've got your housing, and you've got, this is the other one, you've got your follower. This is your follower here, and basically these things can only be put together one way, so don't worry about putting it together wrong. But you can see it fits just like that. When you put your spring in, it's going to sit like that inside the magazine. And the issue that they have is you're getting your nose is tucking in on your bullet, hence it won't feed correct. That's why polishing your feed ramp will help. But the main problem is the nose of your bullet gets tucked down in your magazine, and they're not wanting to come out of there. They're not wanting to catch on your slide. And this is how the spring comes stock. This is for that 10-round magazine. But you can see what I've done on this one here is bent the tail of that last coil. Grab it right in the middle there. You can see where it's bent, hopefully, and just bend it up, straight up. Try to keep it in line best you can. Don't go bending a bunch of this around trying to do that. And that's where the two pliers come in. Grab it with two pliers, one on this side, one on the end, and just slightly twist it up. Don't worry about going too far overboard. You don't want it going straight up and down, obviously, but about like I have it there is perfect. And also when you reassemble your magazine and you load in a full 8 rounds, it'll bend that down to where it's gonna be just fine no matter what. So don't worry about over bending it. So all you gotta do to put one of these back together, it's real simple. And if you can put one together, you can take one apart just as easy. So you've got your magazine housing here and your follower. Set your follower down in there the right way. The notch that comes down here will aim toward the same direction as your actual projectile on your bullet. Get that down in there, get it seated right. You can see it's seated right now. Then take your spring. So basically how that's going to sit inside there is you've got your spring where we put our bend. This is your follower here. The projectile of your bullet will be going this way. It'll be on this side of the follower, and it'll rest just like that inside the housing. And what that does, as you can tell, it brings the nose of that bullet up. That way they don't get jammed in because they're heading in nose down. Make sure you got your bend going the right direction towards the bullet, towards the projectile of your bullet. Slide that down in there just like that. Make sure it seats. It feels good. We've got our end cap here, and you can see I did go ahead and paint this one while I had my paint out. I figured why not. Now what you're going to want to do here As you can see, this last coil of your spring here, there's a little tit, well, not even a tit, a little point that'll rest around there. Hopefully you can see that, how that rests down on it like that. And then you'll just take and straight down. You just start on one side, and it's just a matter of pressing it down till it's on, solid, just like that. You can go ahead and test, and I'll just use this to make sure everything functions. It does. It doesn't hurt to throw a little bit of oil on that spring, just to keep it moving nice inside your housing. And that right there alone should take care of a lot of your feeding issues with your Hi-Point C-9, or I'm sure the 45 has the same issues. I'm sure it's the exact same magazine, maybe a little wider, I don't know. We're going to put this baby back together. If you do have any questions on assembly or disassembly, refer to my disassembling a Hi-Point 9mm video. That'll give you your basic field stripping, and then from there, if you have any sense at all, you can see the pieces. Even if you don't know the names of them, I don't know the names of a lot of this stuff. I know they go to the trigger mechanism or the safety or stuff like that, the roll pin, stuff like that. But even if you don't know the name, if you're smart enough to figure out how it comes out, remember it, take a picture of it, and put it back together. It's not that hard. But the initial taking it apart is a little different than some guns. That's why I wanted to show that on a past video. So, alright guys, so we got it put back together here. As you can see, I'm on a shitty camera here, but you can see we got everything put back together. Everything functions properly. Turned out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. I haven't ran it yet. Haven't tested it yet. We will. Stay tuned for that when we go out and test the videos. I hope you guys are able to watch that. Also, I do kind of run through going out to try to shoot it in the video, the fishing video we just did. This was actually filmed before that, but I didn't get a chance to do that. So stay tuned. We will go out and test that, and also stay tuned for more videos coming up. I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you.